Hey everybody, this is Jason from Get Tech Smart. I'm here with a good friend and colleague and freaking smartest freaking software programmer that you're going to ever meet in your life, John O'Connor. Come on, John, tell us all
Hey,
about yourself.
thanks, Chase. That was a really awesome introduction. So yeah, I am a software engineer. I've been working in the field for over 20 years now. Started in web development and then progressed into aerospace and then dabbled into consulting. So been bounced around a lot of different industries, a lot of different fields inside of programming. And I'm currently at Georgia Tech working on a master's degree in computer science, specifically in human computer interactions. So I'm super excited to talk to you. You get to be on this really neat show you got going.
Yeah, it's awesome. So tell me more about your experience with I guess you told me before we started recording here that you're focused on AI right now in your learning.
Specifically, like I've been doing research into how humans interact with computers, and AI bots, for example, are one of the ways that it's a new paradigm that people are using to interact with computers. And interact with computers in a lot of different ways. So some of the things that I'm interested in are, for example, human drone interaction, voice commanded drones, or AI bots that use AI to command a drone or to command other hardware, embedded AI that don't currently exist yet or that are just in their infancy. So I've been studying the ways that people interact with computers, and AI is one of those new modalities that people interact with computers.
It's not going to go away, is it?
Not at all. I think it's just like we interact with a keyboard and mouse now, how touch interaction became a big deal in the late 2010 roughly. It's just another way that people interact with computers. It allows us to interact in a more natural language way. So yeah, not going away anytime soon.
One thing I noticed about it though, everybody, and it's a new thing apparently that you can actually get a job as an AI prompt engineer. But right. I see it as more than just prompt engineering that people need to know about.
Yeah, I think prompt engineering is a fascinating topic because it maybe illustrates the fact that computer programmers really aren't going to go away. Our roles are just going to shift, right? So one of the things I've told my students at the college for a while is, they've asked me before, is my job going to go away? Is this field worth getting into? And I've always said that even if programming doesn't look like it does today, even if it's not inputting instructions into a computer, there's always going to need to be somebody who understands the technology well enough to massage it into the computer in a way that gets good results. That's what programming is today. You're putting in, code, which is being translated into machine code in different ways. You're going to continue to do that. Prompt engineering is maybe what computer programming will look like in the future.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
In fact, with AI, with Chat GPT or OpenAI's latest release that they allow, I'm sure you probably heard about it, that they allow function calling through their AI now. So, but functions are just like, you're basically right. It's sort of like akin to a math paragraph problem. Not really the numbers per se, but you got to write out the whole different prompt or function. I want to do this. If somebody does this, then I want you to do it. This episode of Get Tech Smart is sponsored by appandwebdevelopers.com. Everything you need from website design, app development, hosting, and more. You can call up this API at this URL or URI and do this and look up, book it and whatever. It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. I think functions are an interesting application to this because it's essentially it's the core of this human computer interaction. Your interaction is with the AI. That's how you tell it what you want it to do. And then the AI is given this capability through functions, which is still a traditional programming technique, right? A function is it's a program that the AI can run. So you can even see in that how programming isn't going to go away. The AI part is really just one piece, and that beginning piece where the human tells the computer what they want it to do. The computer still has to have the capability to do it. And that's what I think programming is going to look like in the future. The AI piece is really just a small chunk.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. I think that, it might be an issue where it might help programmers to learn, well, maybe, I don't know if learn new languages would be in the right term, but syntax won't be as much of an issue as what I see. Because the AI take care of the syntax, the difference between, a Node.js program versus Python or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, traditional programming languages, they use, they have a syntax and a grammar, and they use very specific syntax and grammar. And I think as a programmer, AI might be able to help loosen the restrictions around that. Maybe you don't have to learn such a specific grammar to still achieve the same ends. And there are a lot of domain-specific languages or DSLs that already kind of do that. You can be a little more loose with the structure of your program, and you can, for example, chain functions together using like flow-based editors do this. And, this isn't a plug for Propel, by the way, just the fact that it exists is a thing. You can chain together.
Plug it all you want, brother. It's an awesome program.
I'm not plugging it only because I'm not doing much with it yet, but I have plans for it in the future.
Thanks.
But it's another example of how these systems go together, how they're chained together. It just does it visually versus, function calls.
Yeah.
And AI is doing the same thing. They're just sort of this input into that. So these DSLs, like that system allows you to be very loose with where you put your grammar, because all you need to know is here's a piece and here's how it connects. And you don't really need to care that it's in this pixel region of the screen.
Yes.
Right. So you're seeing, there are DSLs that already are forgiving of the programmer. And I think AI is going to make that even more prolific, more pronounced.
I agree. But you're still going to have to, have the mind frame to be able to be a programmer, I believe.
Certainly. Yeah, I think the problems don't go away, right? You're still, even if you could have an AI that can program itself, you're still going to need a person to tell that AI what problems are important to solve, right?
And know to correct the errors, because AI doesn't always do great with correcting errors. Sometimes it's somewhat okay, and then other times it's just like, well, it's full crapshoot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big problems right now with AI is that our language models, right, the large language models like ChatGPT, they weren't designed to be informationally accurate. They were designed to deceive you into thinking that they are an actual person writing the document. And it doesn't, they don't necessarily care that their output is accurate. They just care that you believe it. And, you believe that a person wrote it or that it looks believably human. And there are a lot of ethical issues with that. We already see it happening with professors flunking their entire class because they put in a paper into
Oh, really?
This happened, yeah. I'll have to look up the details, but there was a professor who flunked his entire class because he took every paper that they wrote and put it into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT if it had written that paper, and ChatGPT answered yes. And in fact, it hadn't written the paper, but there's no requirement here that the answers ChatGPT gives you are real and true. Right. They're not factual, right? Or they don't need to be.
You think we would have put it through a different one of the programs, not necessarily that one that he thought of. Like, they have a ton of them out there that are, checking to see if it's written by AI these days.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even then, how can we trust the results as people, right? You still are going to need somebody that you trust. And trust is going to become, I think, a massive thing in AI. It's already a massive thing in like cryptography and crypto systems and cryptocurrency. Trust is the backbone of those systems. And I think what we're going to see in AI is a new form of trust needing to be developed. One, can we trust the results? Two, can we trust that this was written by a person or not? We're going to have, I think, human validated, or rather, human signed digital artwork, where a person says, I'm applying my digital signature to this, and therefore, it wasn't done by an AI, it was done by me. And by signing it, I can prove later on that the AI bot used my artwork and trained on it, and therefore it's copyright infringement. You're going to see a lot of a lot of ethical issues like that coming up in the near future.
I agree. Yeah, that's the big thing, is the intellectual property rights of it is going to be huge, because how can you tell that it stole my stuff here? And, because it takes pieces of, data from everywhere.
Right.
Pieces it all together. So if you take part of this music artist's words, part of this music artist's words, another one, and you put it all together, is it really infringing, or is it a new work of art?
Right. And that's a problem that's difficult to solve even without AI in the loop, right? You have instances of musicians going into court and playing their music for a judge to prove that their art is not similar to somebody else's art. Well, now you have, an AI bot that is directly training and copying pieces of artwork. How do we define the limits of what's intellectual property and
exactly
what's infringement, right?
Yeah. It's going to be a problem for all the intellectual property lawyers, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then, side note, if you're in the computer industry and you're looking for a very, very lucrative career, consider like intellectual property law, because software is gray area all day long, and you will never run out of work, not in the foreseeable future. So yeah, if you find yourself,
for sure.
Yep. Yeah, if you find yourself inclined that way, legal work in software is a good field to be in.
So what do you think about this Facebook voice box AI? Have you ever looked into that one yet?
No, I haven't. So maybe give me a quick...
They say it's 2 seconds of a person's voice, any person's voice, and they can clone that whole person and then write a script off of it and have that person, famous person, non-famous person, doesn't matter, say that whole script. And then obviously you pair that with other, visual AI systems where they create the person's video, and it looks like the person's actually talking, Morgan Freeman or whoever. Actually, right there.
It's wild, man. I mean, so it's, July 18th, 2023 today. And right now there's a strike going on with the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, and they've been joined by some of the other unions, right? The actors, the Screen Actors Guild, they're striking currently. And one of the core pieces of that strike, one of the reasons that they're striking, has to do with AI and with AI cloning, with writers having their input fed into an AI, having it trained on them, and then writing scripts for them. It has to do...
Because it's like they basically get paid for 1 hour or 2 hours of work for them to clone their voice. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
They send them home.
Yep. And there are actors now, this is already happening where studios are paying actors. It's about 70 cents on the dollar per hour that they use. So an actor can go in, they can have their voice and their likeness cloned by their studio. And then the studio is paying them per hour of footage that they use, just as if they were, acting on screen, but they're paying them 70%, but they don't have to do anything. It's just their likenesses. And it's very... Yeah, so very lucrative for a famous actor, like an A-lister. They can go in and, not have to do any actual physical work other than get cloned, and they get paid. But for example, an up-and-comer, right? Why would a studio use an up-and-comer when they can get an A-lister? And,
exactly.
How are they going to get these performances out of these actors? There's a whole bunch of different issues that are starting to come about.
Thing is, there's going to be an issue where, say, this studio paid to have this actor cloned for this movie. Well, this other studio wants to use it. Well, there's going to be an issue with that because this studio has the rights to that clone.
Right.
So they're going to have to pay that studio or have to reclone that actor, which wouldn't be exact because it would then be an older clone, what have you. So things like that could happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're entering this very interesting era of this new technology, and there are a lot of possibilities here. There are already actors that have agreed and licensed the clone of their voice, the digital clone, and it's being used already today. You saw this in Rogue One, right? So Star Wars Rogue One had a likeness of Peter Cushing. That likeness, Peter Cushing has been dead a long time, but that likeness was a complete digital recreation of that actor and that actor's performance. How do they compensate Cushing's estate for that performance? Right, that actors would have been paid in life. Now you have a whole different dimension of we're taking actors who have passed away and we're cloning them. What's the statute of limitations on that? Do we have an actor that's 100 years, like Charlie Chaplin, for example? Do we still have to pay the Charlie Chaplin estate if we clone him and put him in a movie?
Exactly.
There was another famous instance recently with The Flash, the movie The Flash, which
have you seen Indiana Jones?
Not yet, but I know they have like young Harrison Ford in it.
Whole first part of it.
Yeah.
All AI generated or what have you.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had that since, Benjamin Button came out, right? Benjamin Button was the first one to do that aging and de-aging technology really well. And they did compensate Brad Pitt for his performance, but, in Indiana Jones, let's say they no longer,
Earthquake.
Earthquake. In Indiana Jones, they still have the actor around, but if the performance is entirely AI generated, do they have to pay them for that?
Exactly.
Good question.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to go on that one. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that's going to end up.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the reason why my aunt got out of the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be.
I'm retiring.
It's a little, we're sort of sitting on the precipice of a new era of performance art, and we'll have to see where that goes. I just recently saw Avatar: Way of Water, and they use this motion capture technology, right? So they still use actors, they still use their performances, and so they still pay them for that. But I could see in the future taking those same performances, generating a 3D model out of it, and then no longer using the actor. That's entirely feasible.
Isn't it amazing though the era that we grew up in? Because you're just a little bit younger than I am. And the fact that we grew up, we saw the world before internet,
right?
And then capitalized on that issue, and now we're going into a whole different realm of AI. It's pretty insane.
I mean, we're still to this day feeling we're still feeling the effects of the internet becoming a thing now, right? We're still seeing industries being disrupted. When I started my career, I worked in a newspaper, and we used to talk about all the time how the internet was probably going to make the newspapers go away, and tons of people from the the newspaper side of it saying, no, it's not possible. People will always want something physical in their hand, and it was less than 5 years. And the newspaper went under.
Exactly.
It happened that fast. And I think AI is probably one of those disruptive technologies. I mean, look at, the internet is one of the reasons that AI has advanced the way it has. If we didn't have cloud computing, we wouldn't have these massive GPU running clusters.
Exactly.
All of the technology we use to build the internet, we're now using to run large scale distributed applications. And training an AI bot that's what you need, is the large scale distributed system. So we're still feeling it. Every technology that's come about in the last 20 years has probably got something it owes to the internet.
Yep, I agree. I think that, as with my last Get Tech Smart with my last Get Tech Smart podcast, I interviewed a gentleman that was started up a comedy club. And he was like, well, it hasn't really hit my field yet because, you have to, in comedy, you have to read the crowd. So until it becomes like actual robot sitting there right there next to you reading the crowd, then of course, then it can actually, do that kind of thing. And it might be over, but until then, he's like, no, it hasn't really hit the comedy field.
Well, and there are possibly some fields that it may not ever disrupt, anything that's live performance, anything that requires human intuition, and a large language model bot does seem like it does very human-like writing, it can feel very realistic, but it's not a human writing it. And at some level,
people have been divorcing their wives over them.
Right. And, and I mean, it's interesting, like
I wonder if that's just oh, well, I need to have a reason.
Yeah, I think it would be. Like, they already that must have already been on the docket anyway, and they're just like, it's an AI bot's fault now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, you know what I find funny is look at here's how I kind of think about it. If you look at CGI in the early 2000s, right? And you look at CGI today. Back in 2000, if we saw a movie with really great CGI, it would feel to us like it was very realistic. I remember this in video games. I couldn't believe the realistic graphics of the PlayStation, right? So realistic. And now looking back at it, it's almost comical how unrealistic it was and how, rudimentary it was.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if right now, because it's all new to us, we're seeing the output of these large language model prompts, and we're saying, oh my God, this looks so realistic. And, in 10 years, we might look back and go, wow, it's so obviously an AI bot, right? Maybe our intuition will change over time as we get comfortable with the technology. I think that's a possibility too.
I can see it. When I read stuff, I'm like, oh, that was written by AI.
Yeah.
I can 100% tell, oh, okay, maybe 5% time it can't, but time I can easily see it.
A lot of times you can. Yeah. I had in the course that I'm in right now, we write a lot of papers. And of course, we're told, don't use ChatGPT for your papers. We will check it and you will get, failed for it.
Exactly.
But we also, as part of that, have peer reviews where we review other people's work. And I just received a peer review that I can tell was written with ChatGPT. The student definitely put it in an AI bot because it missed, it got elements of my paper, but it also got some of them wrong. And the misinterpretation was very clearly one that wasn't a human misinterpretation.
Exactly.
And I thought, that's interesting that it just happened to me this morning. Actually, I was just reading that review and thinking, oh, this guy wrote it with ChatGPT. How do I know that he did that? I think maybe in a few years' time, we're gonna have an intuition for it, and then it'll be really obvious. So perhaps same with AI, generated performances.
I agree. I don't think that it's going to have the right textures, and besides, it's almost too perfect in a way where it messes up, and super wordy.
Yeah,
I'm talking for now, really wordy.
Yeah,
like okay,
and it is for now.
A lot shorter.
Yeah, and it may get better. It will get better, right? It will adapt and evolve. Most of the paper, like the large language models, were built on this essentially one seminal technical paper you can read called Attention Is All You Need. It was written by a bunch of research, like 8 researchers at Google, who are the top researchers in the field, and they were the inventors of transformers, which is how all of your modern AI generators work. Right?
Oh wow!
They all use transformers. If you go to huggingface.co, which is it's sort of like the implementation side of AI and bots and stuff. If you're not bots, but generators, huggingface.co, that's the one that everybody is using to build out their transformer systems and to create new AI and to share it. It's kind of like the GitHub of AI.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's phenomenal. And 100% of it is built on transformers. Transformers are how we have these large language models today.
Yeah.
And, all based on that one paper, Attention Is All You Need. So if you're looking for an academic background to it, that's how they work, right? They all work that way.
Yeah.
And kind
that's
of
awesome.
neat. Yeah.
Very cool.
Threw that out there.
Nice little tidbit, for everybody.
Yep. If people are looking for like, the sort of academic foundation of AI today, and it'll give you a chance to kind of figure out or feel out what it's capable of if you understand the technology a little bit.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else that you would like to mention to everybody?
Let me think. I felt like that was a pretty solid, back and forth. We covered a few different topics. Nothing offhand. I think the HCI angle was what I was really kind of hoping to get to. And I think I'm good for now.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years in software programming?
Oh, yeah. Good question. I think, part of the reason I went back to this master's degree program after being in this field for so long. You can see the gray here now.
I shaved mine off this morning.
Yeah.
See it?
I know you've got a little patch here and there. Yeah, part of the reason I went back into this program is I realized, I've always been fascinated by human-computer interactions. Like that was the sort of common thread of all of my interests in computing was how do people interact with computers? That specific part of it. Yeah. And I finally figured out for me, like that's the piece that I should be in. That's the piece I like to be in. And it's sort of an intersection of like in a business as well, because human computer interaction is all about figuring out how computers can work better with people, how people can work better with computers. It's about need finding. It's about, a lot of things you do in business. Where's the pain? How do we fix the pain? That's business too.
Of course.
And what I realized was that was the thing I was interested in. And I'd love to spend a lot more time really exploring how people interact with computers and maybe changing that a bit, creating new programming models. I'm very interested in flow-based programming. I think it's one of the ways that we can more rapidly prototype systems and even live prototype it, where you no longer need a prototype. You just build the system. It's just as fast. I think that's something I'm very fascinated with. And the idea of maybe taking software and iterating on it so quickly that you can build systems, fast, right? Like within days instead of months or years.
Exactly.
That's the sort of stuff I'm interested in. And I'm hoping that my research interests can kind of nudge me that direction and ideally even turn that into a business where I can help other people build their software quickly and solve their problems quickly. So we'll see. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know what exactly it looks like in 5 years because I'm a little bit ADD, so it could change tomorrow. But for now, that's what I'm interested in.
The way that with all software programmers, I think if you're a good software programmer, you got to have ADD.
Yeah. It changes too fast for you not to, right?
Seriously.
Like, you have to be, in order to be on top of it, you have to be interested in a lot of diverse subjects, and you have to be willing to put in work to learn it and to understand it. Right. And that requires, firing on a couple of cylinders at the same time, and maybe also forgetting a lot of calendar dates.
Well, I appreciate that you didn't forget this one, even though I didn't. Just back from your trip and everything. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm
tired and probably, worn out from it. But
yeah, I was excited for this. This has been something I've wanted to do for a little while with you.